Okay, so I'm going to give you a walkthrough guide of Unit 14, Assignment 1, Physiological Disorders. This assignment requires you to talk about two physiological disorders. I've actually going to only give you an example of one. However, you will need to apply the principles and concepts from this one example to both of the disorders that you cover. And in this case, I'm covering asthma today. So first of all, I've given you an overview of what asthma is, I've given you some key facts. And then I've gone on to talk about the causes. Now, the causes, it's really important you do this properly. So the criteria asks us to explain. So here I've gone on, I've said dust mites, and I've explained why dust mites cause asthma. Then I've talked about exercise and how exercise causes asthma. Then I've talked about viral infections and stated how viral infections can cause asthma, and then finally talked about smoking. You should have a number of causes in this section, and always explain how it causes the disorder that you're talking about. Here I've then talked about the physiological changes of the body due to asthma. So here I've talked about the physiological changes due to asthma. And we talked here about the bronchial tubes and how they swell and constrict airways, and then I've talked here about the fact that what causes an asthma attack and what changes within the body due to an asthma attack. And that would be that section done. So it's about the physiological changes to the body in relation to your disorder that you're covering. Then you need to go on and you need to look at treatment. Okay, so here I've talked about the 3 different inhalers. But I haven't just talked about what they are, I've talked about the physiological benefits or changes that you get from using the inhaler. So in this one, for instance, I've said the physiological benefit is it begins to relax the breathing tubes. Okay, again, the next inhaler I've talked about, the physiological benefits of this treatment is that it helps to reduce inflammation in the breathing tubes and stops asthma symptoms occurring. And again, I've talked about the physiological benefits there. And I'm actually going to bold that to evidence where I've put it. Okay, so every time you talk about the treatment, you explain what the treatment is, and then you talk about the physiological impact of that treatment on the body. Now, you could also consider some negative impacts if there's a side effect of the drug or whatever that's related to your disorder. Then I need to talk about asthma and influences on the development of the disorder. So the first thing I'm going to look at is, first of all, is asthma inherited? So I've looked at whether it's inherited, and yes, there is a potential chance of asthma being inherited, so I've explained how that happens. Then I've talked about lifestyle choices, and I probably should bold that out. So I've said that smoking can increase your chances of asthma, but I've also gone on to say that actually this is a negative. Obviously, lifestyle choices, you can have negative choices, but you can also have positive choices. So I've said that actually, swimming has positive side effects of asthma and can help with the disorder. Then I've looked at the environment, and so you can talk about work, places that you live in, or work in, or actually socialise in, can have an impact on the disorder. So here I've talked about clean environments being a positive environment. Actually, you can talk about working conditions and how a clean working environment is beneficial to the person with a disorder. However, I've also talked about, and this is here, a negative, that however, if you're a builder, for instance, you could be working in dusty environments, and that could actually it could cause you to develop asthma or make your symptoms worse. Something to consider, obviously, when you're talking about these sections here, because you won't all be doing asthma, is that lifestyle choices, for instance, if you're looking at a lifestyle choice like diet or drinking habits or whatever, that could also be a potential factor that develops the disorder that you're talking about. So you need to consider that. And then finally, you need to talk about signs and symptoms. So the key things are observable signs of the disorder, so what you can see. So coughing fits, you can actually see people coughing, so there's my coughing fit. Wheeziness, again, you can hear people when they have wheeziness on the chest. But this one here, obviously chest begins to tighten. Potentially, you can't really see that as a sign. However, you may well see them struggling to get breath, and that would be the sign. So what I've done here is I haven't just said coughing fit. I've actually explained each sign and symptom. Okay, so it's really important that you go on and you explain every sign and symptom, because if you don't, you won't meet that criteria. So each sign and symptom is explained. And then once I've done that, that is my one disorder done. I now need to apply the same principle to the next disorder, so whichever that might be. So I might do Alzheimer's, and then I would apply the same principle for that disorder. Okay, so please follow this, because this will make sure that you meet the criteria. Make sure you don't list it. Listing's no good. You need to explain everything that you put down. Okay, thank you, and I hope this is helpful.